Welcome to The Explainer. So today we are diving into a really fascinating paradox. Have you ever noticed how incredibly capable, highly intelligent people just struggle to lead effectively? I mean, they've got the skills, they've got the knowledge, but the second the pressure is on, everything kind of falls apart. Today, we're going to unpack exactly why that happens, and more importantly, look at the blueprint for self-empowerment that actually solves it.
Let's be totally honest with ourselves for a second. Are you trying to win external battles without winning the internal one first? Because the hard truth is, if you are, you're fighting a losing war. True leadership, true influence, and real success, they don't start in the boardroom or the market or your social circles. They start entirely from within.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our 6-part roadmap for today. 1. The battlefield within. 2. Mind versus mindset. 3. The strategic triangle. 4. Ancient wisdom, modern strategy. 5. Engineering peak performance. And 6. The leadership inversion. Let's get right to it.
Starting off with Part 1, the battlefield within.
Before we can even talk about winning, we've got to define the actual theater of operations where your Bailey struggles truly take place. Right now, we're all engaged in 3 simultaneous battles. There's the internal front, your fears, your doubts, identity conflicts. Then there's the external front, the competition, the economic pressures, expectations. And lastly, there's the existential front, that search for purpose and fulfillment. Now, most of us are completely hyper-fixated on the external, but attempting to conquer all that external pressure without securing your internal front, it's a critically flawed strategy.
That brings us to Part 2, mind versus mindset.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that this is the absolute most crucial conceptual distinction we're going to make today. It's the foundation for everything else. Just look at the contrast between raw capacity and actual direction. Think of your mind as your raw operating system. It's fluid, it's a reactive storm of thoughts and emotions, pure potential energy. Your mindset, however, that's your structured programming. It is the lens that filters reality and directs the mind's flow. It turns that potential energy into kinetic energy. Simply put, the mind just reacts, but your mindset, that decides exactly how to react.
And this dynamic perfectly illustrates why self-empowerment isn't just, motivational fluff. It's strategic warfare. Think about it like this. Your mind is the physical battlefield itself. Your mindset is your overarching war strategy. Your daily habits are your weapons, and your attitude is the morale of your troops. But that last point, that's the real kicker. Self-empowerment is your command authority. Without that command authority, you aren't really a leader at all. You're just a highly talented victim of circumstance, constantly reacting to whatever the enemy throws your way.
Moving right along to Part 3, the strategic triangle.
So, how do we actually establish that command authority? Well, here's exactly how your internal state translates into reality through this self-reinforcing engine. Step 1 is your mindset, which defines your belief system, basically what you think is even possible. That immediately cascades into Step 2, your attitude, which defines your emotional posture. Are you approaching a challenge with optimism, or are you paralyzed by fear? And finally, that emotion drives Step 3, your habits, which dictate your behavioral consistency and your daily execution. It's a perfect sequential flow, from belief to emotion to action.
But you have to understand that this behavior loop is never neutral. Never. Every single time you cycle through it, it compounds. A calibrated mindset creates a success spiral of empowerment, growth, and impact. But a reactive mindset traps you in a failure loop. Fear, stagnation, total inconsistency. Think of an executive who misses one target, panics. Actually, scratch that. It's more like they start micromanaging their team out of fear, and suddenly they've caused 2 more massive failures. It compounds rapidly. As a leader, your primary job is to consciously design which of these loops you're feeding.
Let's shift gears for Part 4, Ancient Wisdom, Modern Strategy.
To really appreciate the depth of this framework, it is absolutely fascinating to see how deeply rooted it actually is. Look at this. Ancient Indian Dharmic wisdom taught that Indriya Nigraha, which is control over the senses, leads directly to manas shuddhi, or clarity of mind. Now fast forward thousands of years, and modern neuroscience is telling us the exact same thing. When we engage our prefrontal cortex, the logical, strategic part of the brain, to control those impulsive, emotional limbic system reactions, we achieve strategic leadership. Thousands of years of ancient philosophy and our most advanced brain scans are pointing to the exact identical truth. He who governs himself is fit to govern others.
All right, let's get practical with Part 5, Engineering Peak Performance.
So, how do we actively govern ourselves today?
Well, the absolute best in the business, we're talking Big Four consulting firms here, they don't treat leadership as some static personality trait that you're just born with. No way. They treat it as a system design problem that can literally be engineered. They break it down into 4 distinct layers. First, self-awareness to diagnose your blind spots. Second, cognitive reframing to strategically transform limiting beliefs. Third, behavioral execution to operationalize those habits. And fourth, continuous adaptation to ensure you keep growing. It's a complete, unified leadership engine.
Now, to condition that peak performance mindset, you need a very specific architectural blueprint. You can't just rely on one type of habit. You need mental habits, stuff like dedicating time for reflection and high-level strategy. You need emotional habits, like actively cultivating gratitude and learning detachment from outcomes. And you desperately need execution habits, which means ruthless discipline and a real bias towards taking action rather than just sitting around overthinking everything.
But building the engine is only half the battle, right? You've got to keep it running. There are 3 continuous inputs required to sustain your effectiveness. You need regular feedback loops so you can honestly review your performance. You need diligent energy management to maintain your physical and mental clarity. And honestly, arguably the biggest piece of the pie here is purpose alignment. Because without a crystal clear sense of why you are doing all of this, your discipline will inevitably just collapse under pressure.
And finally, part 6, the leadership inversion.
So the crucial point is this. This is the singular insight that separates the absolute elite from the average. Most people, followers, they sit passively. They wait for motivation to strike. They wait to feel confident. They wait for perfect clarity before they make a single move. True leaders do the exact opposite. They actively generate their reality. They take action first, which creates the motivation. They step up to lead, which builds the confidence. They make a decision, which cuts right through the fog and generates the clarity.
Ultimately, winning is not some external event. It's not a finish line you cross or some shiny trophy you hold up. Winning is a continuous internal psychological state. It's a state of being where you ensure that action aggressively replaces hesitation and discipline forcefully replaces distraction. You don't depend on external validation, and you for sure aren't shaken by temporary setbacks. I want to read this directly from the source material by Anupam Sharma because it's just brilliant. The moment you master your inner world, you stop fighting battles and start winning them by design. Let the gravity of that statement sink in for a second. You literally move from just reacting to the chaos of the world to orchestrating your own victory from the inside out. It's a total game changer.
So here's my question for you. What is the very first internal battle you need to win today to become the leader you are always meant to be? Identify it. Apply this blueprint. Reclaim your command authority. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.